You're going to go to the racetrack and it's going to happen at least once. Somebody's going to, but also at the same time, I am fortunate. I get a lot of people that do praise the work that we do. Listen, I would not wish this on my worst enemy.
Ladies and gentlemen, you wanted it, you got it. The place for the untold, real, raw, and juicy stories of dirt track racing. It's Dirt Track Confessions. And now here's your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dirt Track Confessions. I'm your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney. This week's episode, we have track owner and promoter of Bridgeport Speedway, also known as Bridgeport Motorsports Park, Doug Rose. Doug, how's it going over there?
Very good. Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to sharing this. I feel like I see Doug in the summertime almost every weekend doing all sorts of things. And I really thought now with the season coming up, it would be a really good time to kind of tap into Doug before the craziness starts. So
yeah,
let's help paint our pictures, our pictures. Let's start painting a picture for our listeners and our viewers of really how you got to where you are today, because I feel like you've accomplished quite a bit over the years.
Yeah. How did I get to where I got today? Well, honest, you want to go all the way back? How racing actually got started here? How your dad was instrumental in me getting involved in racing. I didn't really go to much racing when I was a kid. I'm actually from upstate New York, and we went to Utica, Rome, here and there when we were little kids. Don't remember much. It was paved back then. Mm-hmm. But then in around 90, I moved back down to Pennsylvania, started going to watch races, and started taking pictures and I've always been kind of an entrepreneur type person, and I was making these clocks and stuff, and I was selling a lot of clocks to a guy named Mark Kenyon. You know Mark, right?
Yes, I do.
And I wanted to set up at a motorsports show, and that's back when, I think we were at King of Prussia then, and it was like the two stories, and Mark had a huge display for his car dealership, and he had a lot going on, so he set me up with some guy that had some room in his booth, which ended up being your dad. At the time, I had no clue who he was. The funny thing was, I just listened to your podcast with Bob Green, and it's a very similar story. So when I first, I met Billy and, set up there. Most of the time I was there with your mom, and did that deal. And then when I talked to your dad throughout the show, he said, "Hey, if you want to work on cars, come down and work on cars." So I did. And at that time, I was working at a place called Decca Battery, and I was telling people, now I'm working on this guy, Billy Pauch, and like Bob said, his employees are like, "Oh wow, Billy," and I had no idea who your dad was. I didn't know he was as accomplished as he was till we started going racing together, and then I realized, okay, this guy's he's pretty good. So, I was with your dad for a while. Then I met Rich Tobias and his guys, and kind of migrated over there with Rich and stuff. They were a little more local and fun group of guys, and then I ended up going racing myself for a while and kind of ran a little bit of everything. Modifieds, midgets, wingless stuff, just pretty much anything. And had fun doing that. Spent enough money, was done with that, and was dabbling around with stuff. And, Rich came to me one time and said, "You want to buy a racetrack?" And that was Action Track. So that's how we got started there about 12, 13 years ago with Action Track. And as you know, it's become a very, very successful racetrack. It's, I would say we're probably ranked 1 or 2 in the country as far as a micro track. There's not really much out there. You got Millbridge and Port City as far as recognized tracks, but Action Track puts out a lot of really great talent. And then about 5 years ago, we just decided to try to do some stuff on my own. I became friends with Brian Ramey there, and just kind of put something together there and transferred into me actually owning the Speedway. So that's how we got going in racing.
From clocks.
I say to people, because I'm a believer, and you always know where you came from. And if it wasn't for Billy Pauch, there'd be no Action Track, and there'd be no high banks at Bridgeport, because I'd probably be still working at Decca.
I'm gonna promise to the listeners, I had no idea of this.
It's a great story. I love telling that story. It's just
that's
you really look back to how it got started. It just started right there. So
yeah, and I love that, especially like the entrepreneurial path is like you you started here and you had no idea. Like, did you ever would have envisioned like 20 years ago you'd be running Bridgeport?
No, I would have never thought I'd be owning, operating any speedway, whether Bridgeport, Action Track, anything. Just never wasn't in my, my vision of stuff. I've always been into real estate and stuff. So, owning a racetrack was not something that I ever thought of, so
No,
yeah.
it's amazing. Well, okay, I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, okay, so take us to the here and now.
Yeah.
What does, and I say like with air quotes, what does like a usual normal-ish week look like for you? We'll talk Bridgeport is preparing for, I don't know, it could be a regular Saturday night or it could be a big special race.
Right.
What does that look like for you?
So a whole week for me, involves multiple businesses. So, the Bridgeport end of things and Action Track, because I kind of handle both of that at the same time when I'm preparing throughout the week. All the social media stuff you see out there is pretty, for the most part, me getting everything gathered and posted and stuff. I've got Tori Pavel helps me with some of the graphics, but 80% of the stuff now is me putting up and doing. All the sponsorship we put together for that stuff, is me gathering that throughout the week, the order of events, and just making sure the property and everything is situated. I'm fortunate I got some great people over there at the Speedway that help me throughout the week. As long as we don't have any catastrophes, they handle pretty much the typical grass cutting, getting the bathrooms ready, the sky boxes, and all that. So you're just fortunate in this day and age you can do things from afar. So remotely, I can manage a lot of things going on, and with all the business transactions that I do.
Well, I apologize. I didn't of course, mention Action Track in the beginning of this, but I feel like you've kind of, I mean, for me being there on Wednesday nights, I feel like not that you've stepped back, but like you were just saying, with technology and the trust in your people, you really haven't been there as much, have you?
Yeah, it clicked to me a couple of years ago. Like, you handle so much by the radio, because you're bouncing all over the place. And, I brought Jeff Allen on to help me with some things there at the Speedway, at both speedways. And, I said to him one time, I said, how about you run the show? I'll watch the show from Delaware.
Yeah.
And I'm available by phone rather than radio. So, I still, I'm not at Action Track, but I'm still part of that whole show going on. If anybody needs me, the girls in the back or the guys up at the tower, if they need anything, they just pick up a phone instead of picking up a radio. And I can usually watching the event, I can see what's happening and know what's happening. And, when you're watching an event and the hood's up on the tow truck in the infield, you make a little call and say, everybody okay in there? Do I need to help get somebody there or whatnot? But, it is, that is one of the great things about, the streaming stuff is you can manage your show from afar as well.
That's impressive. And we're definitely going to touch on the live streaming in a bit. So
Yeah.
I feel over the years, so much has changed, even just in the past like 5 or 10 years. How do you feel that you guys continue to, have success in the modern day and age with everything that's changing?
Well, I feel it's probably I wasn't in the previous era. I mean, yeah, Action Track was as social media was getting going and the streaming was getting going, but for the most part, I'm in the modern era. And of course, you got a lot of input now because of social media, a lot of voices in your ear. People get to you a lot more and speak. When I raced, I never once spoke to a promoter. I never once spoke to an official. It amazes me on how many people actually, go up and complain or some people praise, but it just was, when I went to race, I went and race. And, when I went with your dad or Rich, we raced. If we had a problem or things didn't go our way, we finished our night and went home. Now it drags on throughout the week. So the modern era is definitely more challenging. And just it's just a lot more to deal with, but that's just the way society is in general. People want to speak to you and they want to be a part of it, and everybody knows I'm available 24/7. They can get me by phone or at the track. Whatever they need, I'll help them. And so it's definitely got its challenges, but at the same time, there's more tools for us to use too, and our marketing end of things.
So, and actually, this just popped in my head. I think, was it the last race, the last points race at Bridgeport? I'm pretty certain you had actually handed out um, kind of like a questionnaire, I think it was, on like rule changes and
Yeah,
stuff. And if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing that, because I love that. We with traveling and all that. I mean, I've been in racing for 30 some years, but it's seldom to have tracks or promoters or series actually listen to the drivers.
I've always told my racers and everybody, even my staff there, real estate everywhere, if you have an idea, a thought, whatever, come to me with it. I will always listen. I can't
Mhm.
guarantee I'm going to go with it, but I will always listen to it. So, that particular thing, there was some stuff coming up. Obviously, there's some changes there at Grandview and Diamond with the right side pan hard versus doing whatever that rev limiter stuff we went to this year. Some just had some questions. I wanted to hear the drivers, and
Mhm.
when you hear it from a little bit from afar, you're getting mixed information. So I just figured, why don't I just hand them all a worksheet,
Yeah.
check off which one you want, don't want. If you have anything you want to say on it, put a note. I'd say 30% put a note. Most of them just checked off what they wanted, or what they wanted for the options. And that gave me a good look at what my pit area wanted and didn't want.
Yeah.
And prior to handing that out, I really thought the pit area was going in one direction, and it was not. It was the other
Really.
direction. Yeah, just because it just was getting relayed back to me differently.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've always told my racers, just anything you got for me, just say it. And I don't. I just want to hear it. I like to hear their thoughts and ideas, and see where they get mad sometimes. Not necessarily mad, but they. I guess some people think you don't listen when you don't put it into effect. It's
Yeah.
not that. It just the more I looked at it, it just didn't fit the overall grand scheme of things. So
Mhm.
that's why some stuff you just don't do. But
Yeah. And I feel you want to cater to the guys who are dedicating their Saturdays to you, but at the same time, you want to open up that door
yeah.
to bring in other people too.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be open for everything. Business is business. You gotta have a broad mind of ideas, and you got to listen to everything that's happening. You got to just watch all your options, whether it's your weekly racers, your traveling racers, your um, um, not your headline division, your other divisions. I mean, everything matters, and I get very frustrated. People know I get very upset or frustrated when they talk about favoritism. It drives me crazy because I honestly I don't favor anybody. I
Yeah.
want every one of those people to come to my pit area. I want every fan to be there. I don't get them all. I mean, they're at other racetracks, but I need everybody and I want everybody, and I will help anybody. But I won't. If somebody needs a favor, they'll get a favor as long as they're working with me and it doesn't affect the rest of the pit area.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not favoritism.
Yeah. You just touched on the divisions. Like you at Bridgeport, I feel you offer quite the array,
Mhm.
right? Of different divisions that either race weekly, race every other week, and of course like the modifieds being the headline division. Can
Right.
you kind of talk to us about what you foresee and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we got very involved in the sprint car world, both winged and wingless. The 305s, the mass division has been just a really great division for our speedway. They put on awesome racing. For a promoter, they're a pretty economical division for us to run. And then the wingless stuff, I really like that wingless 602 deal. So that we've really gotten going more with them. But one of my favorite divisions, my 4-cylinder divisions, and it's funny when we first took over the Speedway. Danny had said to me, Serrano, before he passed, he had said, 4-cylinders, they get a little crazy and they're a little wild, and there's fights and this and that, and the first year we ran them, I only ran them once, and I had an issue. I was like, he was right. So I didn't run them the next year at all, and then I decided, whatever, I gave it a shot again the next year, and honestly, I feel every one of my four-cylinder drivers love me. I mean,
Yeah.
we just have a great rapport. They're a great group. I have zero issues with my four-cylinder. Well, most of my divisions, they go really well. But the four-cylinder guys are. I did a podcast with one of the guys last year, and it was a fun deal, and they're great to work with. So yeah, we run a lot of different divisions, and we have fun with them. And the idea is to grow them all.
Mhm.
You know, people last year, there were a couple of weeks we had 17, 19 modifieds, which, it's the era we're going to be going to. I mean, the car counts are coming down with the headline divisions across the board, and when you're at 24, 17, 18, but it's important that you can get that number or more in your four cylinders and your wingless cars and your street stocks and your sportsmen, and it's those, they all add up to a full pit.
It, I hate to just like categorize a certain tracker division, but it almost feels, looking at it at a lot of tracks, is the main division seems to be like the lower count, whereas like the support divisions, like you said, I mean, I'm thinking, you look at action track, like you said, holy crap, the amount of micro sprints we get, and yet the speedsters have the biggest purse,
Yeah.
and the
Well,
the count's smaller.
yeah. Um, Take an action track part out of it, because that doesn't apply to what I'm going to say here. But typically, your headline division is your most expensive division. Your
Okay.
410 sprint cars, your modifieds, and only so many people, super late models. Only so many people can afford to run those week in and week out. I mean, obviously, there's a bunch of cars out there, but there's also a bunch of tracks. So there's only so many, and you go to from us, we're the modified world, so then you drop to our sportsmen. There's so many more of them because they are much more affordable simply because of the engine package.
Mhm.
It's really all that's more affordable. I mean, you can get away with a little bit less on the suspension area, but our rears are all the same, our front ends, our shocks, etc. But it's all comes down to economics. Why your headline divisions typically suffer. You just look at it in the sprint car world. A few guys step back this year. They're either cut back to part-time basis or retired or just stopped running. Modifieds. We've got a couple of guys that have stopped running lately, and a lot of it comes down to finances. Some of it's family time, but
Mhm.
on the headline division, to me, it's just all about finances.
Man, okay, Doug, I had like a few bullet points, but my brain is like going all over the place. So my next
I
question,
got all day.
he's got all day. Great. So my next question is, like for the modifieds, I obviously I know you're scheduled because of,
Mhm.
what's your 2 cents on giving the drivers like some weekends off? Because I say back in the day, I always thought, you don't want to give your main division time off because then they kind of can dabble and try different things and they might not come back. It was always this fear. But now I feel that's shifted.
It has shifted, and I learned a little bit about that because New Egypt had taken some dates off last year, and very few came to race. They took that weekend to go on vacation. That's not just the modifieds, with sportsmen, other divisions,
Mhm.
as they took weeks off, and I was kind of surprised by that. But I've noticed it over the years. We went down that path this year. Our modifieds are off basically once a month. Unfortunately, the only division I didn't really give off much, or really, was the sportsmen, because they're kind of the core of my pit area, and
Yeah.
and as a business, we need them. Um, so I did give them the option of they can take one bye week and choose a week to take off, and it won't hurt them in the points. So some will do that. We did that last year, and some, most of them still raced all year. But in this day and age, you kind of need to give the drivers a week off. It gives you an opportunity to not have the bigger purse that week. And kind of do something a little different. It gives them the opportunity to have some family time, and there's only a small handful that will go race that weekend. back in the day, you rained out at a racetrack, you went and found a racetrack up the, whether it's 4 hours
Yeah.
up the road or whatever, you just went and raced. And nowadays, guys just don't do that anymore. It's just such a
No.
different time.
It really is. It's a very valid point. So you touched on like you talked about New Egypt's schedule last year. So as we are currently recording this, guys, this is gonna come out a few weeks ahead of us here. But Doug, your season points opener,
Mhm.
right? If I'm correct here, I've double checked myself. It is against the Super Dirt Car Series race at New Egypt. Now, I feel like we're beating a dead horse. We've heard it 1,000 times when we talk about Bridgeport versus New Egypt, Bridgeport versus New Egypt. But like, how do you feel when people bring that kind of stuff up?
Well, let's touch on that race first.
Yeah.
So last year, it kind of got mixed up. I believe when New Egypt was scheduling their race. It's always been Bridgeport's opening weekend was the last weekend of March, and somehow they ended up scheduling that particular event on the last weekend. So I just opened the weekend before, just to. I mean, I ain't going to wait another week to open, so I just opened the weekend before. But by opening the weekend before, I'm kind of forced to keep racing.
Yeah.
So now I go into the next week. What am I going to do? Run non-points or just start going? So I just started going last year, and I let them all know what happened, and they did it again. They booked their series. All they had to do is book the series race the week before, and then I would have opened my big weekend on my normal weekend, and then points would have been a week later. But it's just the way it fell, and just unfortunately, not seeing the big picture, it got missed again this year. So that's why it's up against each other. But it worked out fine last year. They had a good show. They had a good turnout. We did good on our opener, our opening point. So it all worked out. And then like you said, there's since I've taken over, they've you hear like there's a battle between us, and
Yeah.
for me there isn't. Okay, I just run my own gig and do my own stuff. I don't really care what's going on up there. I mean, I do monitor and pay attention, but I watch Grandview, I watch Diamond, I watch everybody just so I can kind of gauge where I am with everything. So I don't really follow or worry about what's happening up there. We do our own stuff, and and I've always been again open, if they have any questions or I can help in any way. This year when Chris took over, I shared with him. I had already done my schedule for the most part. I shared with him, these are all the weeks off I have for these divisions. If you want to make sure you have them on, that'd be a good week for you to make sure you run them, because I'm not. So
Yeah.
and both of us not running that division. So I'm game with all that, and there's I get along great with Mark Blackwell. Joey was Joey. I mean, he was okay, but we didn't always see eye to eye, but we still spoke.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it, they do their thing, I do my thing, and we all just hopefully succeed at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's the key is no one wants to see another track close, but at the same time, the two dirt tracks in New Jersey race against each other on a Saturday night.
Right, right.
Like
Well,
it's tough.
and again, like you said, that that topic comes up a lot. For Bridgeport, we can't race on Fridays. I mean, we run the quarter mile
No
track
way.
on Fridays, and there's nobody there for fans. The Outlaws had come to us for that event that's now at New Egypt. And they asked, do you want to run an outlaw event? And it was the Friday night, and I said, we can't do that. So then they went up the street to them. So could they get away with Friday? Saturday's obviously the key night. I mean,
Yeah.
Saturday's definitely the key night, but is Friday better for them? If I mean, I know Rick was really considering it last year. And when him and I talked, I said, you go for it, and if it don't work, just go back to Saturdays.
Yeah.
Everybody, will go back, and that never, came to fruition. But unfortunately, Bridgeport can't do it with the traffic around there. They we can't, and
No.
trust me, if I could, I'd probably give it a shot at least 1 year and
Absolutely.
just to see. So
Yeah. A special location. A lot of people that don't travel to Bridgeport
mhm.
don't grasp.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking Friday traffic of people getting out of work. Oh my God, it'd be horrible.
Have you ever been to Bridgeport on a weeknight and you thought that traffic was bad, or you came on a Saturday and you thought you ran into traffic? Try a Friday night.
Oh God, I
It's
can't even
tough.
imagine.
So yeah. So outlaw show. Not many people say no to the Outlaws, but
Of course, yeah.
we
And
have to.
I am definitely curious. It doesn't hurt to dabble. Like to take that, I hate to say risk, but like for you or for New Egypt to take that risk and move to Fridays and like all season, that's a big change. But if you were to do a few Fridays here and there to test the waters,
I don't know if that would work. I more or less would what I would suggest if they ever did it, or if I was in their shoes and I did it, I would go into the season doing it until my race
yeah,
was the plan. And if for some reason it sucks by June, we're going to rotate back to Saturdays.
yeah, okay.
And just do that and just go with the plan of doing it. And if it's horrible or let's say unbearable, then you
Yeah.
got to go back mid-season or just stick it out for the year and then just rotate back the next year. So
Makes sense. All right. So, okay, you talked on live streaming. I want to circle back to that. I
live.
know I've shared on here, I think it was a year, two, I don't even know how long ago it was, but the difference in the live streaming of platforms, because for not a hot minute, but for a while, you guys were on Flow, and then I know like it was such an uproar when you guys switched to DTD TV, and holy smokes, like as a promoter, track owner, like, dude, shine some light so these people get it.
Yeah, live streaming, I've said, more recently that I still think it's good for the sport. We're just in a bad spot for promoters right now. So we were at Action Track, we were one of the first to get involved with live streaming back when it was Speed Shift. And, that was great for the track. It really put us in the light of the whole country. That's one of the reasons Action Track really got known throughout everywhere. I mean, we had people from New Zealand watching us. We get messages back because that platform, you can message right on it. So it really got us known, nationwide. Bridgeport, same thing, that we got involved with. So Flow bought out Speed. Well, I think Speed Shift got bought out by somebody then, and then Flow got them. And then when COVID came around, obviously limited fans, I just took over Bridgeport at that point. So Bridgeport really wasn't national. I mean, around here, everybody knows Bridgeport, but not around the country. So, when we got involved with Flow for Bridgeport, that helped put us on the map, became very nationally known. That's how we got the motorcycle races, high limit, you name it. All the big dogs saw us on TV and, wanted, saw the great racing there and the crazy racing and wanted to be a part of it. So, that's where live streaming, was super good for racetracks. It really puts you on in the limelight of the whole country. And early on, you didn't have the viewership that you have now. So the money that we were getting, we thought was decent. We were happy with it. But as we saw the traction of live streaming get going there and people staying home and watching events, then you started seeing the opposite. The money was not nearly enough to offset the fans that you were losing, and you get the argument that, well, when there's a big show, the stands they're full. Well, two things with that. One, stands when they look full, they're not full. Okay, there's still a lot of room for fans. And two, if you weren't live streaming, you'd probably have another 500,000, 1,500 fans because a big show is big, but it's even bigger if there's no other way to watch it. I go back to NASCAR and COVID proved NASCAR. So, NASCAR, you hear, there's no fans in NASCAR racing, no more fans. They took all the bleachers out and stuff. That's because people are watching it at home. We don't have time to go places. We don't have time to do this. It's much more convenient to watch a race at home. Any sports. I mean, I'd rather watch football games, cup races. I'd rather watch them at home because I like the coverage. Okay. I like hearing everything. I like the analysis of everything. I like everything's going on. It's very professional. I mean, if I just heard that, NASCAR's viewership's up 10% at the last two, the first two races of the year. So they did really well. And the same thing goes, I'm sorry, back to the part about what I was going to get with NASCAR and COVID. There's a reason NASCAR was able to race with no fans during COVID. okay, because their TV package is so good. And that's where eventually this will happen with live streaming with racetracks, local race with Flow and stuff. I feel they're in a transition point right now that they can't give the tracks more because they're making more, but they're not making more to, you kind of grasp what I'm saying. It's kind of like if my wife and I had a business and we're making X amount of dollars and we're doing really well with it, and we want to hire that employee. Well, you're probably going to have to pay them 50 grand. And, am I ready to give up 50 grand of my money to bring them on? But once I get to 100, well, now I can bring 50 on and be okay. And I feel that's where live streaming is. They're growing, they're doing commercials, they're doing very well. They appear to be doing very well. And they'll get to that point where, we can start giving these tracks or series. And that is, where Flow is starting to go, is more towards series. And then it'll be good for the tracks again. We're just kind of at that point right now where promoters, we're not getting enough capital to offset the loss of the fans, and that's why you hear the negative comments from tracks from the track end of things. And it's not nothing to be malicious. It's just it's just that part that we're in right now as it continues to grow. And then the platforms, with Flow. I kind of wanted to go to a different pay package. We couldn't really work anything out there. They felt that they had, achieved most of the subscriptions they were going to achieve from our facility. And, so we just moved on to Dirt Track Digest. I personally like that a little better right now, again, because of the state that we're in, not the state, the state of affairs that we're in. I just feel like, we're getting paid our fair share. I feel like people are coming to the track rather than staying home, and it's just all about business. I do feel you got to have live streaming at your track, or I would have just got rid of it altogether. You got to have something in this day and age, so that's why you kind of go with the pay-per-view to just have it for people that can't. The Cretans, they've got family in Montana. Billy, he's got some sponsors in Florida, and you want to be able to accommodate stuff like that, and still allow them to watch the stuff.
Yeah, I see. It's kind of like a catch-22 because when you like you touched on is when you sign on with Flow, you're getting like almost worldwide coverage of people that don't get to tap into the modifieds. However, like you said, the pay structure, I mean, this is just what I'm assuming here, correct me if I'm wrong, the pay structure it wasn't benefiting enough. So then when you went to DTD, like Dirt Track Digest TV, which they are going above and beyond and really like working on improving everything. However, my hold up, I suppose, is that they're Northeast based. So if a late model team out West goes on, they're not going to be looking at Dirt Track Digest modifieds, so there's kind of a small downfall there, but the pay is better.
I'm going to say the pay's better. It's just for me, it'll go by me. So I just feel better. Okay.
It feels better.
Yeah. You get paid a flat rate from Flow, regardless of how many people watch or don't watch. Okay. Yeah. Same way with the NASCAR package. I mean, it's just the way it is. And that number, you just don't feel, you're getting, you feel you're losing more fans because it's so easily to access. You just feel that more people are staying home and you're losing, seats, and I hate that there's definitely people that are going to watch this and think, oh, it's all about greed. It's not about greed. It's just about business, and
it's a business.
With Dirt Track Digest, again, they're obviously everybody that watches it has to pay per view, and at least you feel, everybody watching paid you to see your event. What's that?
You can track that better, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can track it better. And it just makes you feel better about your event in general. People have asked me several times, the Raymond used to run the Pack the House night free to everybody. I mean, I would love to give stuff away for free, but I'm in business, and I feel that the show we put on, should get paid something for. It shouldn't be free, and it's a big risk to do that. So I just feel, so we don't do a pack the house. We put on a great event, a fun event to watch, and we charge you to come see it. You don't get to go to the movies for free. So
Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Huh. Okay. Thank you for that, because I we've been going through live streaming for how long now, and some people they still want to complain. They just still want to complain.
It's the way the U.S. is. It's a very some of my friends up in Canada, they say, you guys are very negative down there. Well, it's just
Mm-hmm.
the way it is, and I'm a very positive person. I look at the bright side of everything, and I don't give up on nothing. I just keep moving forward with everything I do. So it's very hard to be around some of that. But yeah, I mean, live streaming, like I said, it's definitely got its pros, and eventually it'll be good for everyone. It's just it's growing to its next step, and when it does, it'll be great. So
Absolutely.
whoever has flow at that time and has a contract with them, they're going to be doing very well.
Mm-hmm. So I like that you talked about your mindset per se, right? I say trying, but of staying as positive as you possibly can, Doug, because you've been through plenty of stuff. So I now take this with a grain of salt, but I always look at like other track promoters in a sense that like it hurts. I'm gonna say this nicely, is that it hurts because I love all that not just you do, but like track promoters do for us. You guys dedicate your time and really your life into helping make these races happen. And yet promoters are the ones that seem to get the most hate.
Mm-hmm.
Promoters are the ones that they get dumped on the most. And to add on top of that, as a track promoter, you really have to bite your tongue, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Because whatever you say reflects back to your racetrack, and it is such a fine line that you guys have to walk, that you work hard, you bust your tails, and you do it all for love of the sport, and then yet, holy crap, like you are the worst human in the world, Doug. How do you deal with that? How do I cannot. I always dreamed of running a track, but
yeah, don't.
No.
I listen. I would not wish this on my worst enemy.
Are you enjoying this episode, want even more, or want a closer connection to the DTU fam? Join us over in Club DTU, where you'll receive early access to all of our podcasts, live race day updates, exclusive content, special merchandise, discounts, a community chat, personal recognition, and so much more. All inside one place, Club DTU.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's a shame to say that. I mean, it sucks to say that. People ask me all the time, why don't you bring your kids to the track? Don't want them here. And I don't bring them much. There's a lot that goes on race nights, and like you said, all us promoters, any business owner, we put everybody, any business motor has, it's like their children. They're proud of what they do. They work hard at what they do. You're there cutting grass, cleaning. Like, I don't make anybody clean the fryers at the track because it sucks. I do it. Okay. But I'm there cleaning the fryers, and I know, somebody's going to bitch at me this weekend, and they're not here cleaning the fryers. But it is a very frustrating position to be in at times. You're going to go to the racetrack, and it's going to happen at least once. Somebody's going to, but also at the same time, I am fortunate. I get a lot of people that do praise the work that we do, but unfortunately, it's the digs or the comments that irk at you, and I take everything to heart. And people say, you got thick skin. Well, on the surface, but you use the key word. It hurts.
Yeah,
it hurts. And I mean, there's just nights that you go and you bury your head, and you're just like, why am I doing this? I got to go over that Delaware Memorial Bridge every week, and I just want, should I make a right? Just turn off the side of the thing. Probably make a few people happy, But it's just, so it's a tough business. You just work hard at it and do what you can. And I want to look at a date here. Let me look at this. See if I got it on this here. Bear with me a second.
Oh boy. He's doing his homework here. I'm a little
I
concerned.
don't have it on here. I thought I did. So there was a date that changed me
Hmm,
right after COVID, and it touches on exactly what you said here.
okay.
So not after COVID. The year I put the new clay on. We all know about Doug's new clay. Went to shit. Okay, it was horrible, and everybody was turning on me. Racers were turning on me, fans were turning on me. I had the stuff going on with Ryan and my family. Just a lot of stuff happening, and it really showed you that no matter how much good you do, they'll and Brett touched on it when he did the interview. They'll turn on you in a heartbeat, and all we're trying to do is do what we think is right and what we think is best. And that clay didn't work out. I was quick to strip it off, but I had at least try it. I mean, I had 200 grand or 100 grand into that deal. Yeah, 100 grand into that deal. And I had it sits out back. If anyone wants to know what 100 grand looks like, go look at a pile of dirt. That's what it is. But that date, so just something on that date. I wish I had it in front of me, but I don't. And I had an offer to buy another racetrack. I called on that date. Done. I knew from there forward, I'll be here for a while, but I'm not here forever. It's
Yeah.
just, it just showed, just you can only take so much. You try your best to stay at it. Fortunately for me, I got other businesses that are successful, and we don't make people think you make a lot of money, right, with this sport, and we don't, and Bridgeport is financially good. It makes money, but I would, if that was the only thing I had going on right now, you'd probably see a different side of me, because I'd be nervous. I'd be scared.
Yeah.
I'd have a lot of issues going on, but yeah, no, and you can't comment on it. You got to sit there and take your licks because it just turns into a shit show.
Mhm.
It turns into an argument, or if you do anything online, and you just got to sit there, take it, and you try not to look at it, but you got to look at it. At least I do, because I'm online all the time doing my marketing. So it's a tough deal, but somehow we get through it, and somehow we open again the next year. And but people say they don't want to see racetracks go away, but they sure do a hell of a job trying to get us to go away.
Don't they though? Like it just blows my mind. I need to bring on someone who, not like putting it down here, Doug, because you obviously said you weren't here in the 80s promoting a race, right? Like I am curious to talk to a promoter who, shit, I gotta call Grandview.
Right?
May as well just call Grandview because
Yeah.
they've been here for how long,
Yeah.
and now they're going through the social media
Yeah.
phase, and it's like, I don't know, maybe papers back in the day would put out bad press, but there's people putting out bad press like every second of every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's back in the day when it was just the papers. One, the paper didn't come out till a few days after.
Yeah.
There was nobody to go bitch to except for people that lived near you or whatever, or you called on the phone. Now they just you get on a keyboard and type away and have at it, and and it just escalates into so much nonsense that's just not needed. And my friends out there at Lawrenceburg, they stopped promoting that track. For a lot of it's because of social media. Just
Yeah.
enough was enough. And if anybody's out there and they're looking to be a track owner, promoter, you can come see me. I'll be more than glad to sell you the racetrack.
It's such a fun job.
Yeah, tickled you. It's all yours. But don't bitch if it sells to something other than one, right? And they all want, well, why they sell? You see all these tracks closing because of Copart and whatever, and then people comment about, can't believe they didn't sell it as a racetrack or keep it a racetrack. Nobody's calling to buy it as a racetrack, because of people like you. So,
I mean, that's great example is up at Albany. People were
yeah,
going bonkers, and it's like, well, who's Howie Commander going to leave it to? Like,
right. And that's a thing that drove me a little crazy. When the stuff went on there at Grandview and then up in Albany, people going to the township. You don't bring in these other people. Well, you got two owners that are trying to do better for their lives and selling their facility to better their lives, and you're blocking them from that, or trying to at least say. And it's selfish and whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
just the way it is these days.
it's hard because what you do and what we do. I always say we as if I'm the driver, but for the drivers, like, they dedicate their time to be the entertainment.
Yeah.
And yet, oh my God, Mike not being in Florida, Doug, like, people are going freaking bonkers. And I'm like, he's a human. He doesn't have to be at every single race, and yet
It's got to make sense for your life, whether it's financially, time, whatever, and racers are they got lives too. They can race when they want, don't race when they don't want. They all got, most of them have jobs and so but people put in their 2 cents.
something. I really do pray that somehow, some way, like, I hate what is it, like, you don't know what you had until it's gone kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't want to lose racetracks, but if you're one of those people that are just tearing other people down or racetracks down, like, shame on you.
Yeah.
Like, we should be banding together to keep these tracks alive and to support these drivers and these teams and these promoters, and yet it's all negative. And I know it's not just us, like, it's across the board, all across the country.
Well, the one unfortunate thing, and most of us that fall on the other line of the negativity, we're guilty of it. We don't comment, and defend the person or defend the situation or defend it or whatever. And, I can't defend myself or they'll blow up on me, but, there's others that agree with whatever the situation was, that, you guys got this all wrong or whatever. And the people have good things to say, they don't go on to make comments,
Yes.
And that would so much help the situation. It probably never happen because those people are good people and they don't want to get in the middle of it. And I don't blame them, but there's several times things go on social media and it's like, man, I wish one of these guys that told me they thought everything was cool or good or whatever could go on there and say it too,
Yeah.
Out,
you know what? Now that you're saying that, there was a drivers meeting with one of the series races, and the race director / promoter, he even said, he's like, listen, like, when we cancel a race, don't go posting on your Facebook page as a driver saying, like, oh, so and so, they should have raced. Like, support us.
Yeah.
Support us.
Yeah. Yeah. We canceled because we thought we were gonna take a beating that night. We didn't cancel because we knew we could race. We want for me to stay home and not run an event, that still costs me money. But you only get so many dates to pay the mortgage and the tax and insurance. So, and the night you don't race, that bill still comes, or that part of it. And, you've already marketed. So you've already spent on your advertising. You've already, done miscellaneous things that led up to you already spent your whole week promoting the event. That's the the last 2 years, I do all this promoting for the early on events, and, we haven't had an opener for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I promote that for like 3-4 weeks, and then it don't happen. And, you get everything together for the race, then you got to prepare for the next one. And, so it's, when a rain out happens, people don't really understand, that's the last thing we want. We need to race, and last year we were very fortunate. A lot of tracks, it's just the way the weather was, it came from the PA area down towards our way. And, you could see, they all canceled and we fought through it. And we only rained out twice after the round. Sometime in May we rained out, and then we rained out 2 more times throughout the whole year. And we fought through probably 5-6 times and got them in. They weren't home runs. On paper you lost money, but you still got some money towards your overhead and some, it still was worth running the event. So, we're a believer. If we can do it, we do it. And if we can't, unfortunately we can't.
Yeah. So let's flip the script here to maybe I'm thinking like Doug, this might be positive. It all depends on your response. Okay. Is tell us your thoughts for like the future of our sport as far as, the cost goes, the purse goes, because things are just going up, right? Things are just continuing to climb up.
Well, whether it's positive or negative, it's going to be a real answer. The headline divisions, again, we touched on that earlier. They're just they're very costly, obviously, to operate the race cars for the teams.
Yep.
But at the same time, they're costly for the racetracks to have for a purse.
Mm-hmm.
It's right now where we're at. The purse that I feel we're paying out for our headline division is too much, but you can't take away from it because they're spending they're spending more. But when I say it's too much, it's because we don't have enough people in the stands to support it. So we're in the entertainment business, right? I mean, that's our business, and what we bring in for acts are race car drivers, and there's not enough people coming to watch the people we're bringing in.
Yep.
Because it's not necessarily because of the talent or anything. It's just there's just not enough fan interaction with those particular people anymore. Back in the day there was more fan interaction, more fans per driver. Your more known drivers drew more fans, and it's just changed. And it's not because people don't like to come see those drivers, it's because they have more stuff to go do. So they go do that. So the number of fans coming in, we really should be paying a lot less. I'll give you a for instance, and it's not going to happen, so don't anybody jump off a ship here. Okay. My quarter mile night. Okay.
Yep.
We get virtually nobody in the stands. Okay. It's a back gate deal. Why do we pay a purse? Okay. Why do you pay a purse? You're not providing any entertainment. That's what the purse is. That's what you do a purse for, is to draw the racers, to draw the fans. So why is there a purse? So that gives you an idea of what I'm getting at there. So purses have gone up on your national series, and they're starting to price themselves out. It's much bigger risk. The late models, the sprint cars, not necessarily the modifies. They stayed pretty. Might as well stayed very steady, actually. Brett's purse has stayed pretty steady. Super Dirt Series stayed pretty steady. But the purses have started getting big there. So tracks have started renting their tracks to this national series because they're not willing to take the risk anymore. So that's just, if you want the show, rent the track. So they're kind of priced themselves out, but they have their deals with TV and stuff, so that offsets it, and it all works out. The cost of race cars, let's get to that part of it, it's all about technology. Technology is what drives pricing. That's why the Speedster deal is still the best deal there is in auto racing. Okay, there's zero technology in a Speedster, and they pay basically a modified purse. But modified kids and adults, when I say kids, I mean kids coming up through and becoming modified drivers. They want to follow whatever their dad did or what their background is, and they want to stay in the modified. Sprint car guys want to stay in the sprint car group. So that's why as speedsters just don't really go anywhere. But modifieds, there's only a couple of categories that you can trim the fat. The engine package, obviously there's a lot of fat to trim there. Shocks are very expensive, very time consuming to maintain, keep up with. But with the suspension package they're running right now with the modified, you can't cut back on the shock package. Okay. Like I've always said, you just go back to a standard oil shock. That would save the teams a ton of money. You just buy a shock, put it on, go home or go race. You know what I mean? But with this current package of coils and left side, you got to have the right shock package or the cars would bounce all over the place. Rear ends are rear ends, but there's only two manufacturers. So, they can kind of drive the market, and it is what it is. And, transmission ain't that expensive, and the rest of the car just is a standard car. But you go to the sprint car world, I mean, a chassis for a sprint car is probably a third of the price of a modified chassis. Granted, there's more metal, but there's really only one builder in the modifieds that everybody's using. There are others; they just don't have the traction that one has. But in sprint cars, there's multiple, so that's why their chassis stay. But the modified market, the biggest thing is the engine package. That spec engine. I'm pretty sure pre-COVID you were talking 25 grand. Now they're 35 grand. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. Big blocks have gotten to where they've gotten. 410s, you want to be a good 410 racer and have a good 410 engine, 60, 70, some places 80, outlaw type steel. But I don't have an answer where, it's not going to stop going up. It's up to tracks to maybe implement something different. The problem you run into if, just say we brought in a different engine package, something that's more like Brett did, with the Wagner. At first you got a ton of resistance. Now people have warmed up to it. Some still don't like it, but it's a good package for the division. It's just he has too many packages, but that particular engine is my point is when you bring something new in that you as a promoter are pretty sure is going to save in the long run, you get so much resistance.
Yes,
nothing. And when I went to the 53 tire at Bridgeport there from the 48, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. It's 3 weeks later. This is the greatest tire on earth. Whatever. So
don't make change.
Right. Yeah. So engines is, a big deal. Yeah. I think is the biggest step in racing. And I don't have an answer right now. Like I said, the Wagner's out there. You got that 525 engine that I know Dirt dabbles with or has with their 358 package. And, so there's some stuff out there. I don't, know where we're at with any of that right now, but, those are definitely some things we might have to start looking at in the future. Because if this costs keep going, I don't know how guys do it nowadays. I had a pretty good program with what I did, and I didn't, my shit wasn't nothing like this stuff.
Yeah.
Where do these guys come up with their money to do what they do and spend what they spend, even if they have it, still spending a lot of money. I like a friend of mine said one time, he says, I ain't spending all that money. I like looking at my bank account, and it's nice to have something in it. But,
So my wheels are turning. This would be like a huge, I would think, like undertaking to be able to track, but I would be super curious if you could track almost every fan that walks through the gate and have them just fill out like, who are you here to see? And then you can go to the drivers and be like, I'm thinking out loud. I don't know if it would benefit you, Doug, or not, but like, I think it would be interesting to show the drivers, like,
what do you do with it?
Yeah, this is what you're like, not what you're doing for me.
No, I'm asking you, what do you do with that info? Even if you go to the drivers, what are you going to do? You can't cut their per.
No. Yeah. So, for me, I'm from like my perspective of like Mike, Billy, I would be curious because like with our YouTube stuff, I can obviously gauge how many people watch our videos, but how many people actually go to the races that are there to see us? Like, do we bring something to Bridgeport? Do we like, if we want our purse, if we want to get paid more, well, what are we bringing for you?
All right, I'm gonna answer the best I can here. So 2 things with it. One, people coming. Let's just use Billy. People coming to watch Billy there's 2 things. Are they coming because they're friends and family and they're just coming anyway to watch Billy? Okay, or are they actual fans coming? Okay, so that's information. Not that it's different information, but it is different information. And then let's just assume you do that thing and all the fans are coming to see 5 people. What does that tell me about the other 95 people? You still need all them. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So again, what do I do with that information once I have it? Even if it breaks down to 5 people for each person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I don't know what I would do. Rich has brought this up to me several times. We should track the people that come, whether they're new people or not new people, and who they're coming to see. I don't know what to do with it once I get it, so I don't do it. I don't know what I'm going to do with that info once I have it in my hands. Besides, look at it and be like, okay, well,
now we know.
Now I know.
Yeah.
So that's why I have never done it, and I just don't know what I would do with it. We went a different route with marketing last year. As far as fans, we trying to draw fans. I hired a marketing company last year to help me promote the Speedway more like a AAA ball team, hockey team, local hockey team, whatever. We also brought in that movie last year. Both of those definitely brought me more fans. I can't quite track exactly because in racing, so many people buy at the gate versus online. I can tell people that are there definitely for the movie. I could tell people that my online sales went up some, and they went up enough that I was okay with what I was doing. But I couldn't still track it in a whole. But, my year last year was about even with the year before. Now, I spent a lot more in advertising, but obviously last year was a very tough year with the economy. I just don't know where I would have been last year without what I spent there and without that movie.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at. So you kind of gotta, you're always looking for, not necessarily, people say you got to bring in new fans. Yes, you got to bring in new fans, but at the same time, you just got to get fans, get people there, whether they're already race fans, new people, whatever. I hear all the time. This one drives me a little wacky. No, we don't get no kids at the races anymore. That's because they race. We can't get kids to work on our race cars. That's because they race. Back in the 90s, there was 270s and there was another small car, but there weren't 600s, there weren't slingshots, there weren't the 600 modifies, there weren't all that. They all race now, and that's why it's harder to get kids at your facility. Kids are involved in racing. They're just involved as race car drivers.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. We always say that the future is the kids.
Yeah.
Right. That we get now. And wow. Yeah. How so many things have changed.
Yeah, they're racing. That's where they are. That's why they're not at your racetrack on Saturday night. They're at Hamlin or Airport or wherever other Saturday night tracks are, Lenko, and that's where they're at. So
interesting. Okay. Now we're gonna shut my wheels down because we're at an hour. What's that?
We're gonna do like a 3-part series.
I know. So, Doug, I always like to close out, give our listeners like a solid piece of advice, whatever comes to mind, something for them to chew on. This question's more so for promoters, but answer however you want. But what do you feel it takes to be like a top tier promoter in our sport?
You got to be open to change for sure. You got to always, I'm a believer in this, in general with all my business, you got to be looking forward. You're always looking forward. The present is important, but you got to be looking at what's down the road and staying ahead of the curve at all times. It's just, it's important to be open-minded. It's important to listen to everybody. You don't have to do what I've said this earlier. You don't have to do what they say. You just gotta understand what the industry is doing, understand what your business is doing, regardless of what business is. Understanding it and watching it evolve, and just trying to evolve with it, and just staying positive, and again moving forward and never giving up.
That's great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Honestly, anyone could take that advice. So.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Doug, thank you truly for taking the time to be on the podcast with us. It was a pleasure. And as always, a very special thank you to our listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share on your social media. Tag us, tag Doug, tag Bridgeport, and we will catch you guys right back here next week. Doug, thank you. And if there's ways people can find you on social media? I mean, like, find what you do. What do you got?
BridgeportMotorsportsPark.com. Obviously, Bridgeport Speedway Facebook page. Spirit Auto Speedway is our quarter mile, SpiritAutoSpeedway.com, and of course Action Track USA and ActionTrackUSA.com.
Whew, plenty. You need like a little roller of all that you do. Well, thank you again, Doug. It was a pleasure.